A bill to protect children online and limit their access to addictive social media features passed both chambers last week and will soon head to the governor's desk. The bill would require social media companies to verify a child's age on the device's operating system and use stricter features for minors, like limiting location sharing and nighttime notifications. The bill also prohibits social media companies from using a minor's viewing history or data stored on the device to determine what shows up in their feeds. Instead, feeds for minors will only be allowed to show information the user requested or searched for or was posted by a creator the user follows. It passed both chambers of the General Assembly unanimously. The bill is an initiative from Governor J.B. Pritzker, and he has indicated he'll sign it. Pritzker first raised the idea in his February budget address, saying it was a top concern he's heard from Illinoisans.